It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, hopefully you guys are all doing well this evening. I will do the giveaway here in about 10 to 20 minutes, something like that. I'm going to get through the intro and stuff, and then we'll get it over with, and then watch the numbers from the stream drop off dramatically. It's all good, though, so pay attention for that. So welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. So for those of you that don't already know, the reason why I'm doing these is to consolidate my time basically and answer questions. For those of you that watch my videos, obviously, because you're here, and send me emails and comments, you'll often notice that I usually don't respond to them very often until usually Mondays. Okay, Mondays are my days to sit down. I get off work early, come in my office, start answering emails, and then I use these live streams as a means of communication to try to just save my family a little bit of time. I'm a super busy person in general. I have a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, I guess I should start it off by saying my name is Chris. I run the HVACR videos YouTube channel. And the whole reason why I started this channel is to share the little bit of knowledge that I have, but I really started it for my own technicians. I never anticipated making these videos public. It was just kind of like a thing where I finally hit the button. I uploaded 2 videos to YouTube and then just shared them as unlisted, or actually private, well, unlisted videos to my own employees. I would send them to them. And I was a little bit nervous, and I hit the public button, and here we are 2 years later. It's this thing. Never anticipated it turning into what it is. But I'm super humbled by your guys' support, by your comments. I try to read every single comment that comes through on YouTube. I acknowledge the comments with a thumbs up and a heart. I actually learned that from my buddy Andrew Greaves. Andrew Greaves has a YouTube channel called AK Greaves, and he doesn't post on it anymore, but he was a huge YouTuber when I was barely anything. And I reached out to him, and he gave me a bunch of support. And one of the best things that he told me was, hey, you know, when someone leaves you a comment, give them a thumbs up and a heart just to acknowledge the fact that, you know, you read the comment. I had the opportunity to meet Andrew Greaves at the AHR show this last year. Naka Fire and Security, thank you so very much, man. I really, really appreciate that super chat. But I had the opportunity to meet Andrew Greaves, and he's a really cool dude. For those of you that don't know, even though he doesn't make videos anymore, his videos are still relevant. He does, or he did, motivational videos for the trade. So look up AK Greaves or AK HVAC. Someone in the chat will post it. AK Greaves or AK HVAC. I can't remember his channel name right now. I know I'm sub to it, but anyways, cool dude. But he's the one that kind of pushed me to do the whole thumbs up and heart. But really cool dude to meet. Anyway, so as usual, I have a list of things I want to talk about. I want to get to the chat too. If you guys have questions or comments in the chat, there's going to be a lot of people in here. Do me a favor, put your questions and comments in caps lock. Again, this chat is going by really fast right now, so we're going to try to get to them all, but if I don't, I don't, okay? For those of you that are just coming in too, we're going to do the giveaway in about 10 to 15 minutes now, okay? So hello to everybody. Really, really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and get started with this, okay? So the last two videos that I did since my last live stream, I did one on 7:30, and it was a walk-in cooler was at 60 degrees, okay? That was the video where I really broke down the wiring schematic. You know, I usually don't do that, and it's partially just I get into a groove when I'm working with myself. So to give some context here, the whole making videos thing, it really is just a way to make me seem like I'm not insane, okay? I'm not joking when I say that I talk to myself. That's how I troubleshoot things. It's really no different when I'm troubleshooting something, if I have a camera on or not. If I have the camera on, at least if someone walks up on me, it doesn't look like I'm talking to myself, okay? But I genuinely talk to myself, and that's how I troubleshoot things. Oftentimes I walk up to a call and I'll just, you know, I can walk up like in that video, I already knew that more than likely the high pressure control was tripped. We had a really hot day. The whole walk-in was down. I walked up on the roof. What I would have normally done was gone and just pushed the high pressure control, watched that we had a bad fan motor, and moved on. But on that one, I decided to stop and kind of take a few minutes and go through the schematic. Okay. I know a lot of people appreciated that, and I'll try to do that a little bit more, but you have to understand too that, you know, I got to, you know, do normal service calls. I can't, you know, take forever on these calls. And that one I didn't take too much time. So, Jahan, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. Or the sticker. That is really cool. Thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it. Okay. Chris, happy birthday, man. Chris Emery. How you doing, bud? All right. Do I ever think about just getting a torque wrench? Just rust. So that is on my list of things to talk about. And yes, okay. Alex Zapata, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. You guys with the super chats, let me address this right now. I really appreciate those, but genuinely, you don't have to do those, okay? I leave them on because I realize it's a way for you guys to show gratitude, and I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to downplay anything. Thank you so very much, but you guys don't have to do that, okay? You don't have to do super chats to get questions answered or anything like that. I'm going to try to address everything that I can. But again, I'm grateful and thank you very much, okay? I realize that I can easily turn the super chats off, and I thought about it for a while, but then I realized, you know what? I got to give you guys the opportunity. If you want to do that, that's cool, but just don't feel obligated. I'm going to keep doing these videos no matter what, okay? While I'm addressing that, I usually address this on the stream anyways. If you guys want to be able to support the channel, the easiest way to do so is just simply watch the one YouTube commercial I put in my videos, okay? Lately, I've only been putting one video. If you go, or one commercial. If you go back to some of my older videos, I had a few more, but lately I've only been putting one commercial in there. If you guys simply watch the commercial alone, that would support me and let YouTube pay me, okay? And also support the sponsors, Sporlan, Refrigeration Technologies. Those guys are great too. And then another way to do it is by my promo code with TrueTech Tools. You get 8% off your order using the promo code Big Picture, one word. All right, now that we got through that. So now that I got distracted and I totally forgot about it, HVAC Kid asked me a question. How do I feel that I got mentioned in the Technology Connections video? So Alec, the creator, the owner of Technology Connections, made a video, and it's a really cool video. I gave Alec some props too. So he made a video on air conditioning, and he really broke down the air conditioning process, did a really good layman's term explanation of how air conditioning works. And I actually complimented the guy on it. But he did mention my video in he mentioned my channel on his video, and I did tell him thank you. I tweeted him on Twitter and said, hey, Really appreciate it. It was really cool. We got a few people coming over from his channel. It's really kind of neat, the whole group of people that we have on YouTube from creators. Everybody supports everybody. As you guys see, if you look at the end of any of my videos, you guys will see other creators that I'm promoting their channels and different things. You know, I try to promote different people all the time. Sometimes I promote my friends. Sometimes I promote people that don't even know I'm promoting them. I don't message people and say, hey, I'm promoting you. I just throw them at the end of the stream, you know, into the video. So we all try to do it, I think, as much as we can. So it's really cool. Eric Castro, thank you so very much, man. I really appreciate it. Okay, so back to the walk-in cooler. Now, I get super easily distracted. So walk-in cooler video, high head pressure. I walked through the schematic on that one, okay? That one ended up being a bad condenser fan motor. Went ahead and changed the fan motor and got the system back up and operating. I did go through the schematic, though, like I kind of already said, and broke it down a little bit. Oftentimes, I forget to do that. I'm going to try to make a better effort of doing that more often, okay? The next video that I released was the bar AC keeps tripping the breaker. That was the title, okay? And it was an RTU that tripped the breaker downstairs. The customer brought it to my attention. Actually, what happened was the customer was having a planned power outage, and I was there working on something different, and they asked me to go into the electrical room and show them what breakers they could shut off, because this is a very proactive customer. So they knew they had a planned power outage. They were going to shut down all the RTUs, and they were going to shut down all the well, not the refrigeration, but they were going to shut down all the reach-ins and computers and everything. And they were asking me what breakers had to do with the HVAC equipment. So while I was in there, I noticed one of them was tripped, and the customer said, yeah, you know what, we've been resetting that about once every 2 weeks, and it keeps tripping. So that alone, just me asking about it, drove a service call and led to this repair. So, you know, we can't always be perfect on our repairs. There's a lot of things to cover on that, but I walked up and, you know, the breaker was tripping. So immediately what I found was they had one of the 3 fuses going to the unit that was blown, okay? Well, with 3 fuses, if one of them goes bad, then you're single phasing your unit. That's actually something that I don't care for. I don't care for fuse disconnects. Unfortunately, oftentimes in my area, we don't size main breakers correctly. So we need to have fuses in there for the most part to protect the equipment, because oftentimes they'll oversize the breaker, and then they'll step it down with the fuses in hopes that the fuses are going to protect the equipment. So I couldn't anyway, so in that situation, the reason why the breaker was tripping was because we were single phasing the equipment. So when that fuse blew, there was still control voltage to the AC, and it would start up, but then the contactor would pull in and the compressor would single phase and it would trip the breaker, okay? Once I replaced the fuse, then it was a matter of going through the equipment. Now, I never found the exact cause of the reason why the fuse blew in that equipment, okay? I went through everything, but I went to the customer and I said, hey, look, here's the deal. Something's going on here, and this unit has a mad vibration to it. That was the issue that I was worried about, okay? Vibration was coming from one of the condenser fan motors, and the vibration was coming from the indoor blower assembly. Kyle, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome, okay? So I went ahead and talked to the customer, and I said, look, here's what I propose. I propose, you know, and I gave him a list. You guys saw the video. And we went through everything, and surprisingly, I thought they were going to hold off on it, because being in COVID right now, that was a bar AC. They're not seating people in the bar, but they went ahead and repaired it. But still, I made sure they understood that I never found a reason for the fuse to blow in the first place. But I did find a mad vibration in the unit, took care of the vibration issues, okay? Now, I got a bunch of questions about the condenser fan motor in that video. Why did I change the condenser fan motor, and why did I not just cut the shaft? Because the shaft was extra long, and a lot of people were saying, you know, the shaft could be the reason why the condenser fan motor was vibrating. It's possible, okay? But here's the reason why I changed the condenser fan motor. It was still running, and it wasn't overamping, but it was an aftermarket condenser fan motor that was not sitting correctly in the fan shroud. I look for an excuse to change those things, okay? In the past, long ago, I used to put condenser fan motors in like that all the time. Just grab an aftermarket motor, throw it in there, move the blade up as high as you can. But I've learned that it really messes with the head pressure in the system and really messes with everything. So going back with the OEM fan motor that fits with the fan blade in the shroud is the best thing that we can do, and that's what I did. So I was looking for an opportunity to change it. There was a vibration in it. Boom, it's time to change it, you know. Moved on, got it, the vibration to stop. Now, when I finished up that unit, by the end of that day, it was about 105 or 108 outside. So I was baking up there. I was dying. So I didn't spend a whole bunch of time. My pressures were a little bit wonky, but again, like I mentioned in the video, the compressors were 2 different compressors. So which one was right, which one was wrong, if any of them, I didn't know. So I really didn't sweat it too much. We got the unit operational. That is a normal customer of mine. We'll follow up and watch everything as we go through, okay? So another issue that I wanted to address was understand that in my videos, I don't necessarily go in there thinking I'm going to give 100% of the correct information. I don't rehearse. I don't script my videos. You're literally hearing me talk to myself, okay? So I said in the video, hey, you know what? I want to change this wire because they were running number 4 wire to the contactors or to some wire nuts, and I didn't like that. And I was going to redo all the electrical on that because it was just a rat's nest, spaghetti crap everywhere. So I had said, hey, I need to go pick up number 8 wire. But in thinking about it and I think I might have mentioned it in the video, but in thinking about it, I realized, you know, that unit was running about 53 amps and number 8 wire wasn't going to cut it. So I ended up going with number 6 wire. And ironically, I sent someone to go get me some number 6 wire from the hardware store. And when he came back and he showed me the wire, that was actually what I was picturing in my head as number 8. See, I knew the size that I wanted, but I just couldn't think of the numbers. So we ended up putting number 6 in there, ran it directly to the contactors, changed the orientation of the contactors, put lug style contactors in there, and just tried to clean up as much as we could. And knowing, you know, the problems that these units had, I decided to go ahead and eliminate the economizer wiring because the economizer was completely disconnected in that unit anyways. So I just eliminated that as a potential electrical short. And just cleaned up the unit in general, wired back in the compressor lockout boards, which basically puts safeties back in there. The way that it was wired, they still had the safeties, but it would never lock itself out. So if it went off on low pressure, it would turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on. With the compressor lockout board, if it turns off, it locks the board out or locks the compressor out so it won't short cycle. So we got the unit back as good as we can. Sometimes that's all we can do. Even if we can't find the problem, we need to make sure that we put it back to normal operating conditions so that way we can troubleshoot from that point. And the way that I write my quotes up, that's how I say is, look, here's the problem. Here's my solution, but I don't know if this is going to completely fix everything, but all this stuff is wrong. I need to get it back into operational order. And then we can diagnose further from that point. I literally have that wording in every one of my quotes. We need to do this portion before we can diagnose further. So that way it kind of gives me an out in case there's something else wrong. The customer always knows, like, look, this is what we have to fix first, okay? I try to be as upfront and honest with my customers as I can. So, all right, we got quite a few people in here right now. So let's go ahead and get this giveaway over with, okay? So in my last video, let me address this. So I did not want to make this a giant publicized huge thing. So I put it in a video. I did leave a little comment in the beginning of the video and said, pay attention, there's going to be a giveaway. But I don't want to be, you know, that's just not my style to do giveaways all the time, okay? So I do like to do them every once in a while. So in this situation, I didn't want like everybody and their brother entering it unless they truly watched the video. So that's why I asked the questions that I did. I wanted to make sure that the people that entered the giveaway literally had to watch certain portions. And I realized maybe you didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe you skipped through some of it. That's fine, okay? But I wanted people to think about it, okay, and pay attention to it. And I wanted to reward those people that always support the channel by watching it, okay, because I really do appreciate you guys. So what we're giving away today, this is my personal one, but is the SC480. This is my go-to. I've been using a lot lately. This is the field piece clamp meter. My favorite feature is the feature that I showed in the video, and that's the phase rotation. Now, before now, you could only do phase rotation in the SC660. The 660 was the giant clamp meter that I used for a very long time. You probably still see it pop up in videos. It has a swivel head on it. They've now redone that meter and made it the 680, and it has the full Bluetooth capabilities and some other features in it. But I've been using the 480 lately, okay? This will communicate with my phone and all that good stuff. Works with the JobLink app. It's a really cool meter, but I really, really love the phase rotation. So I've been using that a lot lately. So we're going to go. Thank you very much for that super chat, Randy Johnson. That's awesome. So we're going to go ahead and do the giveaway for that. So what we're going to do, I did this a little different. I thought about a few different ways to do the giveaway, and I kind of pushed back on doing a giveaway program, okay, because I was worried about your guys' information. So instead, what I did was I created an email address within my domain that only goes to me. Your emails are not being shared with anybody. Nobody else has access to your emails. I was telling my wife that last night, and she was like, wow, I can't believe you thought about that. And it's like, yeah, because I didn't want you guys getting bombarded with spam just because you entered a giveaway or something like that, okay? So I made sure we did it that way. So what we're going to do is look at my inbox right now. I'm going to refresh, okay? And we'll do these more often, guys. So we have 731 people that entered this giveaway, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a random number generator between 731 people. And I'm going to generate the number right now. So let me make sure I can't show the names because I don't want to out anybody on the emails. But I'm going to do a random number right now. Okay, we're going to generate it. And the random number is 679. So the 679th email is the one that won. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to find email number 679. Give it just a second because there's a lot of emails here. I'm scrolling through them right now. And I will announce the winner. Now, keep in mind, we will ship this meter anywhere in the world. And we do have to give thanks to Fieldpiece because Fieldpiece is helping me out with this giveaway. So we're going to go ahead and go to, let me look at that number again, 679. And let's go ahead and go right down here and see what email this is. That one, we need to go back a few more. Hold on just a second. And I'll announce the winner right now. So the winner is Josh T. Okay, the answer that he put is correct. I had two questions. The questions were, what was the voltage between line 1 and line 2 when I was doing the second phase rotation test? And what was the name of the meter that I used? Okay, his answers are correct. So Josh T, I'm going to go ahead and send you an email. And you are the winner. Hold on just a second. Let me see if I can spell this right. Congrats. Josh, make sure you respond to this email with the address and all that information, and we'll respond back and forth, and we'll get this meter shipped out, okay? So we will be doing another one of these soon. Josh, the email's coming through right now. I'm not going to say your last name, just Josh T. You're going to get an email from me right now, so you'll be able to answer that. So again, thank you guys very much for entering that, and congrats, bud. Okay, we'll be doing another one of these very soon too. So let's see what else we got. Okay, I got a whole list of things. All right, let's re-up on this one real quick. I think I'll do these things more often too. I don't want to do like giveaways all the time because that's not really the style of my channel, but I do appreciate you guys, so we'll definitely try to do this a little bit more. Fieldpiece is doing really good too. Ray said Fieldpiece has got it together. So yes, they are. They're doing awesome. All right. Let me see what else we got. Already did that. So in my videos, you know, especially when I'm working on RTUs, why is the wiring always so messed up, okay? And I get a lot of comments from other countries, too, saying, you know, in the United States, our wiring is so shady looking, okay? I agree that we do things a little bit differently here in the United States. But, you know, oftentimes the reason, like in this particular video where I had the package unit that I was rewiring and doing all the wiring, you know, oftentimes it's because previous service technicians, when they go in to diagnose things, if they can't read a wiring schematic, and I'm not blaming them because sometimes some wiring schematics are super hard to read and the only thing you can do is just trace wires by hand. Or if you're just looking for an electrical short, oftentimes you'll cut the zip ties and start tracing out wires. But the big thing is when you're done, put the zip ties back on. That's the biggest thing. When you know, you got to think about these jobs. I always try to say this. You think about it like someone's going to come and talk shit behind you. That's the biggest thing, right? Now, hopefully it's you that comes back next time, but what if it isn't? You don't want to give anybody any fuel to talk crap on what you did, okay? So always try to think about that. When it comes to installs, when it comes to service, you know, look at the big picture and always try to think that someone's going to come up behind you. It keeps you on your toes and keeps you honest for sure, okay? Let me see what else we got. Yeah, poor quality of work. It is true. Okay. And let's see. What am I drinking today? Well, I started out with I had some of these Black Porter Butte. Again, another Oregon beer. I've been drinking a lot of Oregon beers lately. But right now I'm on a Rogue. Rogue Hazelnut Brown's my jam right now. So I drank that Porter Butte whatever thing, and then now it's on the Rogue. So have I used the Supco defrost timers? I can't say that I have. I don't know though. Are you talking about like the domestic residential style refrigerator defrost timers, those little things? Yes, I've used those, but I've never used anything else, so I don't know. Let's see. Exactly. Think of the next guy because it can be you for sure. That's a really important thing to do. So, customers, why are the customers, and I get a lot of comments about this too, people saying, these customers are skimping on preventative maintenance. The costs are through the roof. You got to sympathize with the customers right now. With these restaurants, they're barely surviving right now. Okay. For all the restaurants that I worked with, I think everyone that I work with, they all had to sell major portions of their company to make it through this crazy time right now. Okay. They're doing anything and everything that they can to try to survive. So while it does frustrate me sometimes that I get a call out and middle of the night and I got to clean a condenser, that sucks. But at the same time, I'm super thankful that I have a job to go, and I'm super thankful that they're calling me and I have the opportunity to be there to fix their equipment. I have to remember that because, yes, I get frustrated and I vent my frustrations. You'll see me on social media and different things like that saying, hey, this sucks, blah, 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 blah. It's true, okay? But at the same time, we have to remember in these crazy times right now, we need to be thankful if we have the opportunity to work. And I know there's probably some of you guys out there that aren't working right now, okay? So, and I'm not trying to, make it seem like I'm any better than anybody. I'm just a lucky person that gets to still work every day, and I'm super thankful for that every day, and I have to sometimes remind myself of it. But if they're not doing preventative maintenance, it seems like it would make more logical sense, but when you think of some of these restaurant chains that have 600, 800, 1400, 2000 restaurants across the United States, if they did preventative maintenance at every one, their expenses are probably going to be pretty high. So for them, their logic is that they're going to cut preventative maintenance in hopes that they don't have problems. They're taking a gamble because the odds are they're not going to have these same problems at every restaurant, so got to give them props. They're doing everything they can to try. Jerry, thank you so very much for that super chat. I really appreciate it. That is so awesome. G Bowen 1. What did I do today? So today I did a service call on a glycol unit. Actually, the customer called me out there for one glycol unit, and I found out it was actually two glycol units that were completely down. Two separate issues. You guys will see a video coming on it soon because I did shoot some film on it. But I was there for probably about 6 hours fixing two different glycol units. It was pretty interesting. So have I ever heard about pressure thermostats? I can't say that I know what you're talking about with pressure thermostats. Well, do you mean using a low pressure control as a thermostat? Because I have some videos where I talk about that. Using the temperature pressure relationship on a refrigeration system with an expansion valve that doesn't have any solenoid valves or anything like that. You can use a pressure control to maintain box temperature. It doesn't work very good when you have remote equipment. When you have a condensing unit, 150 feet away, it gets a little bit more difficult. You can still do it, but it works best when you have a self-contained reach-in, not a cold rail. Well, even cold rails sometimes work, but you can use low pressure controls as a temperature controlling method. I've actually done a couple videos on that, and if you look up on hvacrschool.com, that is Brian Orr's website, and look up temperature controllers in the search bar of his articles, you'll actually see an article that I wrote for him talking about the different types of temperature controllers that we use in refrigeration equipment. And I actually go through the process of talking about using a pressure control as a means of temperature controller. I may have even done, I can't remember if I did a podcast with him about it or not. I don't know. I've done a few things. It's been a while since I've done something with Brian, though. I need to work on a new article for him. Really appreciate that, Randy. Thank you very much for that super chat, bud. Let's see what else we got going on here. No, I have, HVAC Grandpa asked if I have worked on an Emerson or a Copeland XJAL low temp condensing unit. No, those are actually the condensing units that look like a mini split. They're all inclusive. They have a major circuit board in them. They've got ECM motors, all that fancy stuff. No, I have not worked on one of those. I've definitely seen them. I've gone to classes on them, but I've never had the opportunity to install and or work on one. So, all right, I'm going to get to my list of things Oh, great. Okay. Roscoe Jackson, you have an interesting question. What do I think about misting air conditioning units in the desert? I think that you're asking for a world of trouble. What is, okay, the concept of misting an air conditioner, a condenser? What you're doing is you're using evaporation to drop the temperature or the condensing temperature of that equipment. So in theory, it's a good idea, okay? But unfortunately, we have extremely hard water here in Southern California, in most of Southern California. I don't know where you're at. So you can filter that water to death and you're still going to get calcium coming out of that water. So as that water evaporates, the minerals are going to be left behind. They're going to build up and they're going to destroy your equipment. Unless you have like crazy filtration on your equipment, okay? If you really, really need to go that path in some of the dry areas, I do have equipment that does that. What you can do is you can take an evaporative cooler or a swamp cooler, and you can actually blow on the equipment and drop the condensing temp that way, and they won't get so much of the water mist on the condenser itself. But also, that is very inefficient because you're getting a lot of wasted air just blowing across that. Your electricity bills are going to be high. But as you get into the desert, Vegas, Arizona, Southern California deserts, it sometimes is a must that you have pre-coolers and or you need to oversize your equipment so you can drop the condensing temp that way too. Be very careful though. Let me see. I'm going to get back to my list of things here, okay? I was asked, oh, this is a great question, okay? So I was asked by a residential sales tech, okay? And he was commenting about one of my videos, and he wrote me a really interesting comment, and I thought it was worth addressing. He said he would like to know, oh, actually, this is another one. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Let me see. There we go. I was asked about if I had sales quotas to meet. I'm reading his email verbatim, okay? The point was made that on Resity side, often, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not reading his email verbatim. I'm reading my notes, okay? So he was asking me if I have sales quotas to meet, okay? And he was trying to make the point that on the residential side, oftentimes where he works, if he goes out to do a preventative maintenance and there's no sales that could potentially be made, that they don't spend time on that PM because there's no money to make, okay? With that mentality, I'm not knocking every residential company, but that is unfortunately a mentality that is on the residential side, but it is also on the commercial side a little bit too. When we have sales quotas to meet, oftentimes it's not beneficial for us to spend 4 hours doing a preventative maintenance if we're not going to make any money from this preventative maintenance, okay? Especially on the residential side, because they sell that maintenance at a $29.99 maintenance fee, right? There's no way to make money on that maintenance, so they should stop calling it a maintenance. More or less, if you're working for a residential company and they're selling a $29.99 or $199.99 check in whatever they call it, they shouldn't call it a maintenance. They should call it a give us an opportunity to come in and sell you crap sales plan, okay? Don't lie to the customer and say that it's a preventative maintenance or mislead them, because you're not doing a preventative maintenance. You're going in there and you're looking for sales opportunities, okay? Nothing wrong with that. You're a sales company, okay? Just be honest with the customer. We're coming in here. We're going to do a quick look over of your equipment. If we don't see anything major, we're going to let you know if you have any opportunities to improve your equipment. Sell it like that, okay? But calling it a $29.99 maintenance fee or something like that, that's BS, okay? It's not a maintenance, okay? Now, on my side, I own my own company. And no, we don't have any sales quotas, okay? We do preventative maintenance, but our preventative maintenance is preventative maintenance, okay? We go out there and we do work. And we look for opportunities, but we don't create opportunities, and we don't walk away from something if we don't have opportunities. But for the most part, most of my preventative maintenances, in the past, there was some that weren't priced quite right, but most of my preventative maintenances now, they're basically time and materials. However long it takes me to do whatever I need to do is what I charge you. Now, the customer can oftentimes say, hey, we don't want you to spend any more than $1,500 on a preventative maintenance. Okay, so we go and do $1,500 worth of work. My tech will call me at 3 hours and say, I'm all done. And I'll say, no, you're not. You're going to finish. Keep cleaning. Keep scrubbing. Blow drains out. Check this, check that, And while he's doing all that work, and I expect them to clean the equipment, change the filters, clean the evaporators, depending on, what kind of a not to exceed value we have. So we will oftentimes spend the time to do it right. But that is a true preventative maintenance, because we are there to prevent problems and we're there to find opportunities that could prevent downtime for the customer. The customer on the commercial side oftentimes is concerned about downtime, okay? So if you think about a commercial restaurant, back when things were going like they were before, January, If the air conditioner went down in the dining room, the guests didn't want to sit at those tables where that air conditioner fed. So therefore, the restaurant lost out on sales. So it was beneficial for the customer to spend money to have us go in and maintain that equipment, make sure it's working right. So that way they didn't have that downtime. Yes, they had to spend money to make sure that didn't happen, but that's what they were trying to do, okay? Oftentimes on the sales-based companies, they're not there to truly prevent problems. They're there to find opportunities. And I'm not saying everyone. There is good ethical companies out there, but there's a lot of bad ones in there too, okay? So if you're in that situation, if you don't like that, then, you know, you got to do what's best for you and your family. And, you know, talk with your spouse, whoever that is, and decide what you need to do. If you don't feel good, if you can't sleep at night because of the stuff that's going on when you're at work, that's kind of shady, okay? But again, I'm not trying to knock everybody for being a salesman, okay? There's nothing wrong with salesmen because, you know, sometimes you have to. But, you know, it wouldn't work on the commercial side really very much, okay? Because I deal with facilities directors and, you know, they're not looking for a sales pitch. They're just looking for someone to tell them what's wrong so you can fix it. So, all right. Is my maintenance rate the same as my service rate? For the most part, Brandon, my maintenance rate is the same. Now, I will say that in the past, we would have like a preventative maintenance that we would charge the customer, you know, $400 a month or something like that, and we'd commit to spending 4 hours there or whatever that is. In the past, when our hourly rates were a lot lower and stuff, yeah, we could do that. We weren't making 100% of our money on that, but in getting the preventative maintenance, we were getting the repair calls too. Okay. So sometimes on the commercial side, you may discount your preventative maintenance a little bit, just knowing that you're going to get all the service work too. You know, that's kind of a give and take a little bit, but we don't really do that as much anymore. We've kind of been trending away from that, and it's more or less just basically a time and materials kind of a thing. But I still do have some customers where the preventative maintenance rate is discounted. We basically allot for 4 to 6 hours, depending on a PM, and you get done as much as you can. We'll typically have like a checklist that we want the technicians to go through. And essentially we're going there, you know, essentially our job, guys, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Jim Bergman says this: we're glorified janitors. Okay. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but we're glorified janitors. We're there to clean the equipment. We're there to make sure that it's operating properly. We change the filters, we blow out the drains, we clean the condensers, we clean the evaporators. Majority of the time, if we're doing that, the equipment's going to operate properly. And then when there's a downtime, when something happens, a refrigerant leak happens or something like that, then we get to repair it. But, you know, we're glorified janitors, and, you know, that's what we do. We maintain equipment, but we maintain equipment for the opportunity to repair the equipment when it breaks. So hopefully, sometimes I have diarrhea of the mouth. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody with that rant that I went off on, but, you know, it is what it is. So, all right. Let me see what else we got going in here. Are ICM 450 phase monitors worth it? I've used phase monitors in the past in certain situations. I don't know the ICM 450. I think that's the one that I can picture in my head, and I've used it in certain situations where I kept burning up a fan motor. We had some sort of an electrical problem, and if it's the one that I think of, I installed it in a commercial application. I've installed it a few times, but on a refrigeration walk-in freezer equipment, and basically anytime the voltage would drop or spike, I would have it shut down the control voltage to maintain everything was working properly. I like phase monitors so long as they actually work properly. Just remember that, you know, if you have a phase monitor that costs, you know, $25.99 or whatever, you know, I'd be a little cautious about that. It should cost a few bucks, you know, because you're going to get quality in that. So, all right. Let me get to my list here. What device? Oh, this is a great one too. So I get this question quite often too. So someone had asked, you know, when I'm at work and I'm diagnosing equipment and I'm using my wireless probes, you know, what software am I using? What probes am I using? So lately I have been using the Fieldpiece JobLink probes, but I will oftentimes toggle between the Sporlan Smart Pro R probes too. Okay, they both work really well. They both have a great Bluetooth range, but I kind of go back and forth between the two. Or sometimes the cool thing about MeasureQuick, which is the app that I use, is you can mix and match all kinds of probes. So if I don't have enough of the JobLink probes, if I'm doing multiple circuits or different things like that, I can actually put other probes in there. Or if I want to do multiple evaporators, different things like that, you can use multiple sets of probes with MeasureQuick. So I use the MeasureQuick software quite often. It's a great software, especially on the air conditioning side. It has on-point technical troubleshooting features. On the refrigeration side, it's still in beta mode as far as the troubleshooting features, but I still love the app. And I believe that Measure Quick, they said it, Jim Bergman was actually just on the HVAC Overtime show, which I am on Friday nights with my other buddies. And Jim had said that they finally synced up with the Testo manifolds. I think the 5 series manifolds, 510 or something. I don't know the Testo product numbers, but I know that Measure Quick is working with the Testo products now too. So that's really cool. You can use all kinds of different stuff, and you can use it all in together, which is really neat. But yeah, Measure Quick is the app that I use. You guys will see it in my videos all the time. I got no affiliation with Measure Quick with Jim, but it's just a great app, and he did a great job. And, you know, something that Jim had said on the Overtime show that I think is really important is try to support Measure Quick, okay? So think about it. That app that we use that we all take for granted is free. All this data in that app is free, okay? Well, up until now has been free. Now, he did start selling some interesting reporting features and some other features with his qubits. So if you guys get the opportunity, buy a few qubits just to support the app. It helps him to keep doing what he's doing and innovate. You know, a lot of people out there say, when are you going to get, for instance, multiple superheats on Measure Quick? Or when are you going to do this with Measure Quick? And they ask Jim, I see it in social media things and Facebook groups, you know, they're saying, when are you going to do this? But all that stuff that he does is usually free. So he's not making money off of that. So definitely help to support Measure Quick by buying the qubits. You know, it definitely helps him out and will keep him doing what he's doing, I'm sure. So, all right. Okay. This was another really technical question, but this was a really good question. I'll get to the chat here in a few minutes. Okay, guys. So if I'm missing anything on the chat, put it in caps lock. Feel free to post it again. You're not going to offend me if I don't answer your question. Keep posting it until myself or one of the moderators says I'm not going to answer it, okay? So this question that I had, this technician wrote this to me. I think he wrote it today. No, he actually wrote it last week. He said he would like to know, and I'm reading his question, how head pressure affects the low side of the system. Does the expansion valve meter more refrigerant with very high head pressure? Does it affect cooling capacity if the unit's very high on head pressure but isn't shutting down? What if the expansion valve is just pressure operated and doesn't have a bulb? Can it cause flooding? So that is a really loaded question. So let's analyze the first part of that question. He would like to know how head pressure affects the low side of the system. Let's reverse that question. How does the low side of the system affect the head pressure? Okay, let's think about a refrigeration system, whether it be an air conditioner or a refrigerator. Okay, what are we doing in refrigeration? Refrigeration applies to air conditioning and refrigeration, okay? So what are we doing? We're moving heat. That's what we do in refrigeration. We move heat from one point to another, okay? Same thing with an air conditioner. We're just moving heat, okay? We're taking indoor heat in the air conditioning mode or in the refrigeration mode, and we're moving it to the outdoors, okay? So in a refrigeration system, let's not ask how head pressure affects the low side. Let's ask how the low side of the system affects the head pressure. Okay, so if we're moving heat on a refrigeration system, the evaporator is absorbing the heat from inside the box or inside the air conditioner, and it's moving it to the outside and pushing the heat out of the condenser fan motor. Okay, it's discharging, relocating the heat outside. Okay, the definition of refrigeration is the absence of heat, right? Or the definition of cold is the absence of heat. So as we remove heat, okay, things happen in the system. So if we have a very hot box, our head pressure is adversely going to be affected. As the heat in our box or our space goes up, the head pressure or condensing temperature is going to go up. Now, if you have a really hot ambient temperature outside and you have a very hot box, you have high head pressure, or you have a high suction pressure because the temperatures are directly related to the refrigerant, right? So we have a pressure temperature relationship. As the temperature in the space goes up, the pressure in the system goes up on the low side. And then as it's going back to the compressor, that compressor is pushing that heat and it's going to discharge it out of the condenser fan motor, okay? Now, as the outside air temperature raises, it's going to take a lot longer and it's going to be harder for that system. So think about it like that when you ask a question, okay? how does the low side pressure or low side temperature affect the head pressure? And that kind of helps you to understand. And remember that in refrigeration and air conditioning, all we're doing is relocating heat from one point to another, okay? So we're taking the heat from in the box, we're pushing it out to the outside air, okay? We're warming up the environment outside, okay? Now, with that theory and that same theory, we can also heat up the space by using a heat pump and a couple valves, and we can also heat the space by, you know, basically reversing the cycle, all right? Now, the next part of your question, does it affect cooling capacity if the unit is very high on head pressure but isn't shutting down? I don't know about the shutting down part because that doesn't quite make sense to me. But does it affect cooling capacity if the head pressure is high? Well, yes, just like I said, you know, if the box temp is high and you're trying to get that heat out, okay, as you put it out to the compressor, it goes through the compressor, the heat of compression raises the temperature and pressure of the system. If the outdoor ambient is high, then it's harder for it to reject that heat into the ambient, okay? So yes, the system is going to have longer run times to try to bring the box temperature or the space temperature down, the higher the outdoor air temperature and or the higher the head pressure, okay? Last part of your question, again, super loaded question. What if the expansion valve is just pressure operated and doesn't have a bulb? Can that cause flooding? You're kind of confusing me with that. I don't know if you're talking about an automatic expansion valve or if you mean the metering device, okay? But in general, yeah, well, no, that's kind of a weird question. I don't even know how to answer that, okay? In theory, you know, no, I'm not even going to go there because that's a weird question. Okay. So, but hopefully I answered everything else on your stuff right there. Let me get to the chat here and see what else we got going on here. Oh yeah. Let's address this right now real quick. For those that are curious, the contest winner was Josh T. Okay. For the Field Piece SC 480 meter. Josh T, I've already emailed him, okay? You're the winner. Wherever you're located, make sure you send your information back. And actually, Josh already responded. And yeah, gave me his information. So we're going to ship that meter out to you, Josh, okay? So for those of you that came in here to find out the contest winner, it was Josh T, okay? Let me go into here, look at these questions real quick. Okay. So I'm going to look at the chat here for a minute and see if there's anything I'm missing in here. Make sure you guys put your questions or comments in caps lock, and I'll try to get to them. Okay, guys? Let's see what ever work on geothermal? No, I live in Southern California where we have rather high ground surface temperatures. Geothermal is not something that I work on very often. I do know there are a few geothermal units. They also went into like ice bank units and things like that to try to save energy. But no, I've never worked on anything like that. Great question. What do I think about Sporlan Zoom Lock flame-free fittings? Okay, there's been many times I have not had the opportunity to use the Zoom Lock yet, okay? But being that it's supported and it's supported by Sporlan, and Sporlan has been behind that product for a very long time, I got to give them credit because Sporlan has always done a really good job. But have I had my hands on the Zoom Lock yet? No. In all fairness, I have not. I've done training on them. I should say I have my hands on them. I've held it at like trade shows and stuff, but I haven't used it out in the field. Do I see a purpose for Zoom Lock? Heck yes, I do. Okay, now I have worked in certain situations before where, especially in government buildings, large high-rise buildings, I've worked in restaurants that are in like the bottom floor, and I need to fix a leak on a refrigeration line, and you have to get these hot work permits. You have to ask for permission. You have to have fire watches. It's insane, guys, what you have to go through. In that situation, if you had enough room to fit the Zoom Lock in there, that would save you so many headaches, okay? I don't know if it's true, but I don't know who told me this. I don't know if it was Sporlan or someone else, but I heard that here in Southern California, they're building a new football stadium for the Los Angeles Rams, or the new Los Angeles Rams, right? And I heard that new stadium, all the air conditioning systems were done in Zoom Lock. I'd be kind of curious to know if that's true, but I have heard that. That's very interesting. I will say that in talking to Sporlan, the biggest issues that they have with the Zoom Lock is installer errors. People not following the installation guidelines that Sporlan has set up. And going through the Zoom Lock setup when they were doing demos for me and stuff and showing it to me at the AHR show, that was the comment that I made to them. Is like, look, you know what? If people aren't deburring this copper, if they aren't deburring the outside and the inside of the copper, or if they're deburring it too much, you can have some issues because it works off of O-rings and compression. So as you're sliding the fitting on, the O-rings can get damaged by sharp copper, and that can cause refrigerant leaks. Okay, so when you're using the Zoom lock, you have to make sure that you follow all installation practices. You have to use their gauges to make sure that it's right. You have to make sure that you use their depth gauge to make sure that you've, you know, push the fitting on all the way. So it's really important to make sure that you do proper installation. I do have plans. I've been saying, I was actually just talking to my rep from Sportland today, telling him that I still have a job that I want to use the Zoom lock on. I want to get my hands on it and use it. And we haven't done the job yet. It's in a walk-in installation, but because of the whole virus and stuff, the walk-in installation has been put on hold for like the last 8 months. 6 months, actually. But we still are going to do it. It's still on the list of things to do. And I do want to get my hands on the Zoom lock and make some videos with it because I think it's an interesting tool and it has a great use in certain situations. Now, in working in little restaurants on reach and coolers and stuff like that, it's not practical because I can't fit the Zoom lock tool in some of these tiny little reach-ins that I work on. But there's been some piping jobs that I've done that, you know, the Zoom lock probably would have helped me because I have braze joints all over the place. And man, just to do a Zoom lock, boom, be done with it. That probably would have helped me a lot. So let's see what else. Apart from the shortage of technicians, what would I say is a bad part about our industry? Well, I'll say that the hardest part about our industry that most technicians complain about is the after-hours service and the on-call. That is the one complaint that almost all technicians that I talk to have. They don't want to be on call anymore. They don't want to do after-hours service. And that does suck. Working in refrigeration, that's something you have to learn to deal with. I work in restaurants. It's not like supermarket kind of overtime, but you know, we do get calls at 2 in the morning and different things like that, and we have to go to work. It does suck. So I would say that the crappiest part about our job is probably the on-call and or the after hours calls. But unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast, and there's no way you're ever going to get out of that unless you go to like institutional work. There's some institutions, hospitals and different things like that, where they don't let their technicians do overtime calls. They only call in outside vendors. That's an interesting way to go about it too. So, let me see. Can I go over what I use to make the rope that I use to lift my tool pack and equipment access ladders? So I don't have the links. Puffalopagus. I believe that was a character. Was that like a McDonald's character? Puffalopagus. I recognize that name. Or was that like a 60s and 70s cartoon name? Puffalopagus. I know that name from somewhere. Huh. That's a very interesting... Yeah, anyway, so I'm going off on a tangent. So the hook that I use is made by Klein, the electrical tools manufacturer. It's at my supply houses. I don't have a link for it right now. There might be a link in the show notes. I don't know. But it's a Klein lifting hook made by Klein, you know, tools. And then I just use a thick 5/8 inch poly braided rope, and I just tie it on there. I have a shackle or a carabiner on one side and then the hook on the other side. That way I can lift up. And the rope that I use is actually 75 feet long. So that way I can be on most roofs and lift two things at the same time. So meaning that I can shackle onto a compressor and then hook onto my tool bag and go up on the roof and lift one end of the rope and bring my tool bag up and lift the other end of the rope and not have to go back down just to reshackle something or rehook it. So I definitely buy long ropes, 75 foot usually. That way I can get down most normal roof hatches. So let me see what else. Snuffleupagus was a character, but what was Snuffleupagus? Snuffleupagus. What was it a character on? Sesame Street. There you go. I knew it was a character that I knew. There you go. That makes sense. Now, is Sesame Street still on? See, because when I was a kid, that was something we watched on PBS, and it was, you know, public broadcasting. It was on TV along with Mr. Rogers and Reading Rainbow and a couple other things. But I don't even know if that show's still on anymore. I did watch. What about that creep? Wasn't there like a creepy documentary where it talked about all the predators that were on that show or something? That was some weird documentary I watched on that. All right. Odd question. Do I work residential along with commercial work? No, I don't do residential work. I stay super busy doing commercial refrigeration and air conditioning. I don't even do the hot side, the cooking appliances on the commercial side. Why do you have to wait for 3 minutes for a compressor to restart? Why does it lock? Okay, so that's kind of a loaded question. The question is it off on internal overload? Okay, because oftentimes compressors will have a thermal overload built into them. And if it overheats, it'll shut off on thermal overload and then it'll wait to start back up. Okay, I don't know if that's what you're asking me. Or are you talking about um, uh, time delays? Okay, so oftentimes to stop short cycling, which can cause overheating in a compressor too, we will have cycle times that make you wait 3 to 5 minutes before you try to restart a compressor. And again, it's all about heat, okay? You don't want that compressor to overheat. The more it turns on and turns off, the higher the inrush current in the compressor, the higher the heat in the compressor. Ironically, if you just leave a compressor running 24/7, it's actually better. And in a weird way, it can actually save you energy in one way because it saves you on the inrush current of turning that compressor on. Because the hardest part about the compressor typically is the startup. Getting that thing running is usually the hardest part. So if you can keep it running all the time with like some hot gas bypass and different things like that, you can actually save on the inrush current to save pennies down the line. But as far as time delays, we typically do it to prevent the compressor from overheating so that way it doesn't short cycle. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question for you. What do I use for sun protection? And can I share my thoughts on the importance of it? So I am deathly afraid of skin cancer, okay? I work in the HVAC trade in Southern California. I'm working out in the sun. I'd say 350 days out of the 365 days a year, okay? We don't get very much rain or cloudiness out here in Southern California. The first part of my career, I worked out in the sun and I used to rock a killer farmer's tan all winter long, you know, or summer long. I'd go to the beach and I'd have this crazy permanent farmer's tan. My arms would never get sunburnt. And I always thought that was the coolest things. My arms don't get sunburned. I'm fine. Well, that wasn't good, okay? Because sun is horrendous for your skin. It's not good for you. Yeah, it has vitamin D in it, but it also has UV rays, and UV rays are horrible, cause skin cancer, different things like that. Okay, last thing you want is like a melanoma or something like that. So as I've gotten older, I've definitely tried to protect myself from the sun. So I actually wear long sleeve Dickies work shirts every day. So even when it's 115 degrees outside, I wear a long sleeve Dickies shirt. It's like a twill fabric. I wear an undershirt, an Under Armour, like one of those sweat wicking shirts. And I wear a sun-brimmed hat. I look like an idiot, but I could care less what people think, okay? I wear a sun-brimmed hat, sunglasses, and lately I've been putting sunscreen on my ears, especially when I'm wearing my HVACR videos hat, because my ears are exposed. So I just put some sunscreen for faces on there, and I've been making it a habit. Even though I hate putting sunscreen on, I've been making it a habit lately of every morning when I go out to my van to get in there, put some sunscreen on my head real quick, put it on my hands, and then the long sleeves protect me. Ironically, now that I've been wearing long sleeve shirts, on the weekends when I go somewhere with my family, I get sunburnt like that because I forget to put sunscreen on my arms, and my arms get sunburnt now. So skin is very fragile. You don't want to burn it with the sun as much. Also, a lot of people think that if you have brown skin or black skin too, that you don't get sunburned, but you do. Everybody needs to worry about sun protection, okay? Doesn't matter the complexion of your skin. You need to make sure you guys are protecting yourselves because you want to be there for your family 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. You don't want your family not having you there because you got too many sunburns. That's a horrible thing. So be very careful about your skin, guys, okay? 98 DeVille, thank you very much for the super chat, man. That is awesome. What is the common causes for sticking low pressure controls? I would say that oftentimes on low pressure controls, in my opinion, they will often be, the contacts on them will not be rated properly for the electrical load of the startup of the equipment, okay? So the more that contact opens and closes, the more potential it has to have arcing in the contact, okay? And the more potential it has to get stuck and not shut the system off. That's my opinion on the matter. I don't know if I've ever read anything scientific about it, but what else can cause a low pressure control to stick other than arcing that's happening inside there? Now, what causes the higher amp load or the higher inrush currents and different things like that? Not properly maintained equipment. Dirty condensers cause the equipment to run at higher amps, higher current draw. Then it starts up, it's got higher current draw. So the more we maintain our equipment, the more we can possibly reduce the failed or sticking low pressure controls for sure. So, all right. Let me see what else I got here. Oh, this is a great question. I get this one all the time, guys. Why do I not pay attention to subcooling when I'm working on refrigeration equipment? And that's actually a common myth, okay? I know I've said something similar to that before, but I actually do pay attention to subcooling. Subcooling is a very important metric. But when you're working on refrigeration equipment that has a receiver, expansion valves, remote equipment, subcooling can be a hard metric to know where to properly measure it at, okay? And when you have a receiver in the system, the subcooling numbers can be totally skewed, okay? So first and foremost, you need to have some subcooling coming out of the drain of your condenser. You got to have subcooling, okay? Subcooling is going to ensure that you have a solid column of liquid going to your expansion valve on a refrigeration system, okay? Now, 10 degrees subcooling, 15 degrees subcooling, 2 degrees subcooling, which one's the right number? On refrigeration equipment that has remote, like walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers, there is no right answer for that, okay? But subcooling is not a number that you completely ignore, okay? Because subcooling, I typically want to see between 3 to 6 degrees subcooling on the liquid drain coming out of the condenser on a walk-in cooler or walk-in freezer. And then I want to see a clear sight glass. But if I start seeing 30 and 40 degrees subcooling, that means to me that we're stacking refrigerant in the condenser, and we're reducing the space that our condenser can actually change the state of the refrigerant, and we're driving up the head pressure. That would be the cause of the subcooling, okay? So you still pay attention to subcooling. I usually will say that you can use it as a metric to find a gross overcharge and or some major issues in the system. You want to definitely have some subcooling coming out of the condenser, but you're not necessarily on refrigeration equipment that has receivers, not necessarily looking for a magic 10 degrees subcooling or anything like that, because the receivers totally throw everything off, okay? As far as superheat goes, I get the question all the time, what should my superheating and subcooling be? Well, it really depends on the equipment and how it was set up, okay? Typically, we have some rules of thumb that on refrigeration equipment, our evaporator superheat should be anywhere between, I'd say, 10 to 12 degrees. But again, it changes depending on what you're keeping in that equipment or inside that walk-in box, okay? If you're keeping produce, if you're keeping flowers and different things like that, you don't want to dry that out, so you're going to run higher TDs. If you're keeping, sealed products, you're not really worried about that. You'll run lower TDs. So the subcooling and superheat numbers can change. On a walk-in freezer, typically you're going to run anywhere from 5 to 8 degrees superheat, evaporator superheat. On a walk-in cooler, just with general products in it that's sealed, you're going to run 10 to 12 degrees, something like that, okay? Now, the range that we run on that superheat is actually going to change when we get into higher efficiency equipment. When you get into electronic expansion valves, you're going to notice that they don't really have a huge range anymore. So with an electronic expansion valve, if you call the manufacturer, they're going to say, yeah, we want it set on a walk-in freezer at 5 degrees superheat, different things like that. With the thermostatically controlled expansion valves, especially the older ones, that's where that whole range came in. 8 to 12 degrees or 10 to 12 degrees is because you're never going to get that perfect number right in the middle. But with electronic valves, they can really maintain a really tight evaporator superheat. So hopefully that answers your question for you, okay? Let's see what else we got in here. Let me see what here. What's the best way to be proficient on reading and understanding schematics? So that's a really hard one. I still haven't come up with a perfect solution for teaching people how to understand electrical and schematics. For me, schematics came pretty easily. When I was in school, the teacher started off, now you can't use this all the way through, but started off with a basic ladder diagram when you're doing schematics, looking at water flow. That was the easiest way for me to understand a switch. Open and closed, flowing through, open, not flowing through. That gave me the concepts of using a switch. But when you start getting into coils and different things like that, that's where it gets a little confusing. Contactor coils, because water flow really doesn't make sense when it comes to that. But as far as understanding the switching mechanisms, thinking of water flow really does help you to understand that, an open switch isn't going to let water flow through it. A closed switch is going to let it. You can think about electricity as water. But then when you start putting in contactor coils, relays, and different things like that, it gets a little more complicated, okay? I'm still trying to think of the best way. When I was in school, we had a couple different books, but I don't know that those books were like amazing. It just worked for me. I try to share that information, but there's some things that I'm better at teaching at, and there's some things that I'm not the greatest at teaching at. Electrical, I wouldn't say that I'm the best person at teaching, you know, proper electrical theory and stuff like that. So, all right, let's see what else we got in here. What do customers think about me recording? That's an iffy subject, okay? As far as the customers go, I mean, some of them know that I record, some of them don't know that I record. You know, the only thing that I can tell you is that, you know, I try to be as careful as possible and observant of time. I do reflect my invoicing accordingly. If I feel like it took me a long time on the roof while I was recording and talking to my camera, I definitely drop time off of the invoice. But that's just a hard one, you know. But again, some customers do, some customers don't know. So, have I ever replaced an RTU? If so, what kind of unit did I go back with? Oh, I've changed RTUs many times. I usually try to go back with OEM equipment. So if it had a carrier, I prefer to go back with a carrier because I'm lazy and it's easier. But I mean, I prefer Linux equipment. I really like working on the Linux Prodigy equipment. So if you ask me what to go back with, you know, if I had a choice, I'd go with Linux. But, you know, if I have a Train Voyager unit, I'm going to try to put a Train Voyager back on just to save ease of installation and different things. So, have any techs quit because they're afraid of getting COVID? No, I haven't had any techs quit because of COVID. In fact, you know, I really wish, you know, I'm sure there's many techs that wish they could get more hours. We're actually kind of slow right now for a summertime. Has an employee ever used quitting to leverage a pay increase? No, we've never been in a situation where we've had a tech threaten to quit for a pay raise. I can't think of one. No, I don't think so. There has been times in the past when I lost multiple employees at the same time, about 8-9 years ago now, because I wasn't paying attention. We weren't, myself and my dad weren't paying attention to, you know, wages. We were super caught up in everything else with work, and we weren't paying attention, and they left, and what they left for was a huge pay increase. And they honestly deserved those pay increases. So, you know, we weren't paying attention to the times. It wasn't that we were trying to be greedy. We just genuinely were super consumed with work and weren't really paying attention to their needs. So, but no, I've never had a tech threaten to quit. I've heard of that happening with other companies, you know, that I know personally, but I've never had it happen with me. So, does the field piece job link probes measure microns? No. So on the job link probes, no, they do not have a micron gauge built into the job link probes. Okay. There's a difficult thing in there in that the micron sensor, or the sensor that measures the that's in a micron gauge, actually doesn't like positive pressure, but the AccuTools gauge actually built their micron gauge to handle positive pressure. So that's an interesting thought right there. That is a problem with micron gauges, though, is that they're not a fan of positive pressure. They're not a fan of refrigeration oil. So let's see. What else we got in here? Why do Txvs have a thermostatic bulb from their power head? Well, the power head element itself... Ow. Just cut my damn arm. So the power element itself of this expansion valve is what's going to, with the pressure, when this senses the warmer suction line temperature, the head itself, the gas that's in there, is going to push down on the pin and open up the valve. Okay. So why is there a sensing bulb on there? Because that's what basically exerts based off of the system temperature, the suction line temperature. The pressure in the valve or the power head itself increases, which pushes down on the diaphragm, which pushes down on the pin of the expansion valve and helps it to open. So that's the whole point of having a power head on the sensing bulb, or I'm sorry, sensing bulb on the power head. At work, were there any close calls to large refrigerant oil fires? No, I've never had a close call to a large oil fire. What is the largest AC and tonnage I have worked on, and what was the issue? Just a 35-ton IntelliPack that I used to maintain. I just maintained it for a long time. So we had refrigerant leaks, electrical problems, normal preventative maintenance, controls issues, different things like that. Does a maintenance person watching my work drive me crazy? No, I don't mind maintenance people watching my work at all. I don't mind if customers come up on the roof and watch my work. In fact, I like to talk to people, so I'll just sit there and talk their ear off. Usually they end up leaving because they don't like listening to me talk and they get bored, but yeah, I like to talk in general. So how did I prevent illness during this trade in the summer? Hest? Greg. Heat illness and doing this trade in the summer. Maintaining body temperature is the biggest thing. So Greg lives in Southern California here, but I regularly work up in the high desert. I regularly work out in the Palm Springs, the Coachella Valley. My office is based in the Inland Empire, but I do service customers out in those places. So Barstow and La Quinta, Palm Desert, places like that, Rancho Mirage. And it gets extremely hot. So you have to pay attention to your body temperature. Heat stroke is no joke. Maintain hydration. Guys, if you're on the roof and you feel like you need water, it's too late. Okay. If you feel like you're getting nauseous when you're on the roof and it's really hot, it's too late. You need to hydrate before you even think you're thirsty. You need to cool yourself off before you even think you're thirsty. It's a mindset. So as you're working in these crazy hot temperatures out in Palm Springs and it's, 120 degrees with 50% relative humidity in the monsoon season, that's killer. It doesn't allow you to sweat. You're having issues. You need to go downstairs and take normal breaks. So if I'm working out in the crazy heat, like tomorrow, I'm going to be working up in Barstow, California, which is the desert, right? I'm doing a job that would normally take one service technician about 4 hours. I'm actually going to take 2 service technicians, and we're probably going to be there for 6 to 7 hours each. Okay, because we're going to share responsibilities. We're both going to, be working back and forth, and he's going to be there to help me, so that way we're maintaining bodies to make sure that we don't overheat. Okay, it's probably going to be about 105 to 108 degrees, and we're going to be in the sun for 6 to 8 hours. So we got to make sure that we hydrate. We got to make sure we take breaks. Another thing that you want to be very careful about when you're working in the really, really high heat and working in the sun is, it seems like, hey, you know what? It's a really good idea. Let's go jump inside the walk-in box. I'll cool off in there. You got to be very careful about that because you'll actually pass out. If you go from one extreme to the next, you'll actually make yourself sick. So be very careful about that. What I find, my personal thing, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I try to drink room temperature water. My brother actually told me this a long time ago, and he made a good point. I don't know if there's logic to this or not, but if you drink room temperature water, it takes less energy from your body, which is pretty smart if you think about it. If you're drinking cold water, then your body's going to, use energy basically. And, I just try to drink room temperature water, not 100-degree water, but just room temp water, and try to hydrate as much as possible. That's how I deal with the sun and the heat and stuff. So, silver soldering instead of brazing. I use silver solder in certain situations, but I braze in most situations. If I'm doing copper to copper, I'm going to braze with 15% Silphos. If I'm going to do dissimilar metals, copper to brass, stainless steel to copper, brass to brass, I'm going to use 56% silver solder. I don't personally use any low temp melting solders like StaySilv 8 or anything like that. I prefer not to use those. I use 15% Silphos for refrigeration, copper to copper. I use 56% silver solder for dissimilar metals and or brass to brass. And then if I'm doing plumbing, I'll use a tin solder for plumbing work. So, all right. All right. Exactly. Room temp water, you won't get cramps. So, the R290 cooler I worked on recently, why didn't the manufacturer include service ports? So on R290 equipment, the manufacturer doesn't put service ports for 2 reasons. Number 1, most equipment that has a very small refrigeration charge doesn't have service ports because they want you to think twice before you put gauges on it. Number 2, when you're working with R290, the manufacturer wants you to think 3 times to make sure that you know that you're dealing with R290 equipment, okay? So they don't put service ports on there. I guess there's a third reason too, because they want to save money. If they don't put service ports, it costs them less money to manufacture the refrigerator. But if you're following proper manufacturer's installation instructions, when you're doing warranty work, you're actually supposed to take the service ports off when you're all done, using a crimp tool, pinch off tool, and braze the line shut. So that way the next tech has to go ahead and braze on service ports again. Do I do that every time? No. Lately, I've been getting a little bit relaxed on that, and I've been leaving service ports on the equipment, but I do something to mark it. I'll usually use some red electrical tape, put it over the cap, so that way people know that this is, they just think twice, like, why did someone tape this refrigeration cap with red electrical tape? Oh, because it's R290, okay. So, let me see. Do I use flux, and if so, what kind? I use flux when I'm doing tin solder, like for plumbing, and I use flux for silver solder. So when I'm doing silver solder, I use the Harris Stay Silv Paste Flux, okay? When I'm doing tin solder, I use the Harris Stay Clean Flux, okay? When I'm doing Silphos, no, because Silphos has phosphorus in it, and you don't need to use flux when you have the phosphorus already in the solder, so, or brazing rod. How do I get my customers? We have been lucky enough that most of my customers have started since the very first customer that my dad ever had. People from that very first customer in 1989, when my dad started his company, he had one customer, and that led to another customer, and so forth. Okay, so we've been lucky enough that all of the customers we have to this day, I should say, have been word of mouth from previous customers. So let me see what else I got on my list. How do I instill confidence in the customer when I don't know what I'm doing? So that is a great question. And forgive me, I didn't write down your name, the person that asked me that question. But, you know, there, especially early in my career, there's been many times when I had a lot of pride, and I didn't want the customer to know that I didn't know what I was doing, okay? Number one, we've always been fair, okay? My dad, growing up in the trade, my dad taught me everything I know. Whether or not he taught me the knowledge that I know, he gave me the skills to gain the knowledge that I know, okay? So my dad taught me everything. And I can remember at a young age watching my dad write up an invoice after we got done fixing an air conditioner. And I remember watching him put on, you know, 3 contactors, a transformer, a thermostat, you know, and finally on the last thing, it fixed the problem, okay? Yes, my dad would throw parts at some equipment when he didn't know what was going on. But I never understood when he would write up the bill why he wouldn't bill for all those parts, because my dad had integrity, and he taught me that. You know, when I would ask him like, hey, why didn't you charge for all that stuff? And he says, because I didn't really know what was going on here, and this part is what fixed the problem. But I'm not going to pull all these other parts off, so I just left them on there and I didn't charge the customer for them, okay? So I had that instilled in my head. Now, obviously, my dad knew what he was doing, but there was times that he threw some parts at stuff, okay? We've all done that. Don't lie to yourself and say you've never thrown parts at something to fix something, because we've all done it, okay? I think we need to show our weaknesses more often. I think too many of us are afraid, okay? He taught me that integrity, and it's always been something that I've remembered. So how do we get the customers? How do we maintain the customers? How do we instill confidence in the customers? We be honest with them, okay? So in the beginning, I had a lot of pride. I'd be working, I can picture an ice machine in my head right now, working, I don't do their work anymore, but working at an El Torito Mexican restaurant. I was a Hoshizaki ice machine, and I didn't know what was going on, okay? I remember telling the customer, look, I got the ice machine operating, okay, but I'm a little concerned about something that it's doing, and I want to talk to technical support, and I'm going to follow up tomorrow. That was my way of saying, I don't know what the hell's going on. I got it working, but by the time I come back tomorrow, I'm going to know how to fix it. Okay, then I would go home and I would scour message boards. At the time, HVAC-talk message board, and I would scour that message board for technical issues with Hoshizaki ice machines, figured out. By the time I came back the next morning at 8 a.m., I knew what to attack, or I got on the phone with technical support and I knew what to attack, okay? But I was always fair and honest with the customer, okay? If it took me too much time, I never billed for that. I was one of the most honest people when it came to all my time. I would look at these jobs and say, that would have taken my dad 6 hours. It took me 12. We can't bill for 12. We're going to bill for 6. And then I would bill my dad for 6, okay? That's just how I worked, right? So I've always been honest with the customers, and we built a relationship based off of trust, okay? It's a little bit harder these days because the customers they aren't very forgiving these days, okay? But you base it off of trust. So if you're honest and you're fair with the customer, there's nothing wrong with telling the customer, hey, look, I got the unit operational, but I'm not a fan with the way that it's running, and I want to talk to technical support tomorrow, and I'm going to follow up, and I will make the bill right when I come back, okay? And I'll tell them that. Even to this day, if I don't know, I'm a lot more open with things now. I'll be like, yeah, you know what? I really don't know how this thing's operating, but I got it operating as best as I can nowadays. I'll tell them that because I have confidence in what I'm doing. But we don't all know everything. We never will all know everything, okay? But if we know the basics and we know good troubleshooting, we have honesty, and we have integrity, that's going to go a long way with the customer. So I hope that answered your question. Again, I went off on a crazy tangent, you know. Um, Ayim 9542. How do you clean your HVAC system in your home? You know, that's not something I can tell you over a live stream. I would say to make sure that your equipment has a properly cleaned or a clean air filter in it. And you need to be very careful about trying to clean your own residential equipment. Certainly, it's something you can do. You can research stuff on the internet. There's all kinds of information out there. In general, I am not a DIY channel. I realize that some people do watch my videos, and that's fine, you know, that want to learn how to do stuff. But I'm not here to take another contractor's job away. I'm here to share information with other technicians. And again, I'm okay with homeowners and business owners watching my videos too, because some of you have ingenuity and you're going to figure things out one way or another, you know, and if you watch my video, then so be it, you know, but I'm not going to give you guys all the answers, and I don't mean any offense by it, but I'm a business owner, and, you know, I would not want another company, you know, teaching my restaurants how to fix their own equipment, which is going to not let me maintain their equipment either. Okay. So there's also a lot of liability in me telling homeowners and or business owners how to repair their equipment, because we deal with a lot of dangerous stuff. So there's lots of information you can find on the internet. You can certainly watch my videos, but I purposely leave a lot of information out of my videos. And again, don't take offense to this, what I'm saying. You know, it is what it is. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Oh, I saw a question right here. Do I have a company website? Yes, I do. It's a very basic website. I purposely don't share my company information. I realize you guys can watch my video and see my company name every once in a while on my shirts, but I purposely don't make my company information public. I get a lot of questions about this too. Do I use videos to gain customers? No, I don't. I've had a few customers email me like, hey, I want you to come work on my equipment. You do great work. And by the time I share my prices, most of them don't call me back. I'm not looking to gain customers right now. You know, in the future, maybe, but right now I can't keep up with the work that I have. So, let me see what else we got in here. What HVAC unit do I have at my home? In my home, I have an Arco Air 4-ton split system. That's way oversized, not installed properly. I've said this before, but I need to do a video showing my system. It's horrible. The ductwork is horrible. I have horrible airflow in all my rooms. Yeah, it's a horrible system. I've always wanted to redo it. I've thought about trying to reach out to Carrier, because I'd love to put in like a Carrier Infinity system. But those things are just so expensive. So, all right, let's see what else we got in here. Oh, so yeah, that's a great James Rod. So I was eating at my favorite little taco place one time. That's a great point you make. Okay, so I was eating at my favorite little taco place, and I don't want to name the name because I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I was sitting there and the owner's son walked up to me because he's been in there a bunch of times. I knew he was the owner's son, and he's like, hey man, so you do air conditioning, huh? And I said, yeah, air conditioning and refrigeration, because he saw it on my shirt. I said, yep, that's me. And he goes, hey man, do you do side work? And I said, no, I don't do side work. First off, I didn't tell him this, but what I told him was, look, dude, don't take offense to this, but I really love eating here, and I don't want to mix the places that I love to eat with the places that I work at. Okay. But then between you and I didn't tell him this. You know, if someone asks me if I do side work, that literally means that they're too cheap to pay for good quality work. People see side work. They don't want you as a service technician, for the most part. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, they don't want you as a service technician to give them an amazing job at a fair price. They think that they're going to get you at a discounted price to give them an amazing above and beyond job. Okay. I personally don't like to do side work. I have never liked to do side work because I stay busy enough at work. Okay. If I want to go get some more hours, there's always work to be done at my normal day job. Okay. Helping out friends and family, I don't mind here and there, but doing side work, it's not my drive. You know, I just don't really care for it. So, all right. Let's see what else we got in here. Why don't I use a mega ohm meter or a megger? That's a great question. I honestly don't own a megger. I've never owned one before. There's been a few instances recently, like in one of my videos recently where the AC had a tripped breaker. It probably would have been a good idea to meg the compressors, meg the condenser fan motors to find out if there's a potential problem. But I've gotten by for a very long time without having a megger. I've thought about buying one, and I probably will. I'll probably buy a really nice megger, but something that you have to remember with a mega ohm meter is they make super cheap ones. Okay, I wouldn't trust a cheap mega ohm meter. The one that you see behind every counter at the supply house, guys, you probably don't want to buy that. Okay, when it comes to a mega ohm meter, you probably want to spend a few bucks and make sure you get a really high quality one. The second thing is Copeland, of all people, Copeland actually recommends that mega ohm meters not be used as often as people use them, okay? Copeland recommends, and there's a service bulletin, just look up Copeland compressors mega ohm meter in Google, okay? Ask the Google, and it'll tell you that, you know, reading their service bulletin, I think from like the early 90s, Copeland basically says that a mega ohm meter on a compressor is not the greatest thing in the world because mega ohm meters can actually pick up moisture in the system. Moisture in the system can make it seem like there's poor insulation, basically. And so Copeland recommends that if you're going to do mega ohm tests or meg the compressor, that you do it, or an insulation test, that you do it over a period of time, trending the data to notice that, hey, this compressor is slowly degrading over time. But a one-time use for a megger is kind of like, it's not the greatest thing in the world. Okay, of course, if you have a completely grounded compressor, a megger is going to pick that up. But for the most part, most of your meters can pick that up too. So I've been thinking about buying a megger just to have one. But for everyday service usage, I mean, unless the companies that you're working for is paying you to do like crazy preventative maintenance, it hasn't been a very practical tool for me to have. So do I think the technology on Carrier Infinity or Greenspeed is going to reach commercial RTUs? Yeah, I would like it to reach commercial RTUs. And again, if anybody out here in the chat or watching this video knows anybody upper in Carrier, tell them to reach out to me because I would love to install a Carrier Infinity system at my house. Great question, though, that I had about the Carrier Greenspeeds. And then someone actually asked me a question. What are my thoughts on the direct drive ECM fan motors popping up in some of these package units? So Carrier has one. I think they call it the Eco Blue. And then I was told Train has one too. It's like an inline axial fan. It's an ECM motor. I'm a little bit concerned about them, okay? Because those inline ECM fans, I picture those being in a kitchen covered in grease. My kitchen air conditioning units are covered in grease. I mean, I just had to change a blower assembly due to vibration because it was full of lint because the customer wasn't doing a preventative maintenance. What do you think that's going to do to an ECM motor if it has grease all on it? That's just going to be a nightmare. Now, there's no fighting it, you know, because politically, you know, everybody wants energy efficiency and all this different stuff. And there's I live in California, one of the craziest states when it comes to energy regulations and stuff. You know, we basically set the bar for the rest of the country. So anything that we're doing right now, you guys can expect to do it in 3 to 5 years. Right now, 404A is banned in California. You're only allowed to use it on repairs. You can't use it on new installation of refrigeration equipment. You know, I think I even heard that up in certain counties up in the Bay Area in Northern California, they're trying to get rid of natural gas heating, which is crazy because in California, we have a horrendous energy grid. So to go electric heat with heat pumps and different things like that is going to stress the grid in the wintertime too. But I've heard that they're trying to get rid of natural gas heating, which is crazy. We're definitely in a certain type of crazy here in California. So what's my opinion on VFDs? VFDs are great, but unfortunately, they're installed in most package units out there, and they're installed in the Airstream and or in high, horrible climate areas in the electrical panel and different things like that. In my opinion, a VFD is a great device to put on a package unit on any kind of a motor as long as it's installed in with proper power conditioning going to the VFD and in a clean environment that's not going to get hit by moisture and or dust and different things like that. I have failed VFDs often. In fact, I think I have a VFD back here. Let's see if I have one. So I have a failed VFD right here out of a Carrier package unit. You guys see the top of that VFD? It's covered in dirt and sand. I actually talked to the manufacturer of this VFD, ABB, and they had an interesting conversation with me about where these are installed in air conditioning units, and they've been having a lot of problems. Manufacturers been ordering, different manufacturers have been ordering of all different air conditioners, and they're installing them in horrible places, and they don't have proper power conditioning on them. So they have high failure rates. You know, I think VFDs are great, but I just don't think that they're maintained properly. I don't think they're put in the right place. So the fact that this one is covered in dust on the cooling fan means that the heat sink in the back, or the heat exchanger, is basically covered in dust too, which probably doesn't allow for proper heat dissipation. So crazy. All right, let's see what else we have in here in this chat. Bosch 2.0 over Carrier Infinity. That'd be interesting. My personal opinion is if I was to install a system in my house, I'd want a full communicating between condenser and evaporator with full EXVs. My personal preference. But I've also thought about a couple other systems too, but I'd love to put a Carrier Infinity in. So you live in a townhome and a 4-inch metal duct pipe goes from the basement to the attic as a straight shot, not connected to anything. Do I have any idea about what is done? It is a townhome in New Jersey. Science and Minecraft. Feel free to send me an email. I would be glad to look at some pictures if you want to send it to hvacrvideos.com. hvacrvideos.com, and I can give you some more insight. I do have some friends that work in the New Jersey area that I'm sure would be able to help you out possibly. But send me a picture first, and I'll kind of look at it and give you some context on what I think might be going on. Let's see. I have a 4-ton unit at a home, and that it was oversized, not ideal as a 4-ton unit, as opposed to multiple units ever appropriate for residential. Yeah, multiple units are appropriate, or proper duct work. That's the biggest issue here in California. We run flex duct and it's never installed correctly. So Barry Allard, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. Do I use much thread locker on mechanical or electrical retention fasteners? No, I don't really use thread locker very much. I'll use a thread lubricant, Nylog, made by Refrigeration Technologies. But I used to use like leak lock and or some Loctite thread locker, different stuff, but I don't use them anymore. Let's see what else. What thermostat do I have in my house? I have a Honeywell 9000 touchscreen thermostat, nothing fancy. Let's see what else I'm missing in here. Do I think my company can branch off in other cities or towns in the future, or no? James Rod, no, I don't. I don't think my company can branch off. You know, being a small business, the one thing that you realize is the more employees you hire, the more control you lose of your company. My customers really like the fact that I'm a small business. They like the fact that it's intimate, that they can call me, and for the most part, I know everything. Even if it was another service technician that went to that, my customers know they can call me and ask me questions about it. The bigger I get, the harder it is to control that. We've had, at the most, I think 7 service technicians at once, and it was crazy. Right now, we're at 4 service technicians. So it's hard to let go of that control. One condensing unit connect to reach-in cooler and walk-in cooler. How to maintain superheat. If you have one condensing unit, there's nothing wrong with maintaining superheat. You have solenoid valves for the walk-in cooler and the reach-in cooler. So the superheat's going to be maintained by the expansion valve in each system. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. So long as your equipment is sized properly, your expansion valves are sized properly, and you have proper nozzles in your expansion valve, or in your equalizer lines, or your distribution lines after your expansion valve. So in order for that to work properly, you need to have a solenoid valve that will shut down the flow to each piece of equipment, and you just have a properly sized valve, and you set the superheat when the equipment's running. That's normal for them to run multiplex systems like that. Do I use aftermarket parts when OEM has crazy back order times? Ivan, I have in the past, but it really depends on the situation and the customer. So yeah, it really depends. I try not to go aftermarket, but like today I was working on a glycol unit and I installed an aftermarket part because it was easy and I knew it was going to work fine. Let's see what else. Will a battery-powered vacuum pump work on a new install of a walk-in cooler? So your vacuum pump is limited by your hoses, okay? I happen to have a Navac battery-operated vacuum pump. I have the very small one, okay? They also have a 4 CFM, I think now. I don't have that one. I have the smaller one. Will it work on a walk-in cooler? Sure, but you need to have properly sized hoses. If you're hooking your normal service gauges with a 1/4-inch process hose and a 1/4-inch liquid and suction hose. With 1/4-inch hoses, I want to say you get 1 CFM through those hoses or less, okay? So you need to go with bigger hoses. That's when you go to like a 3/8 diameter inside diameter hose, or you go to the true blue hoses that I use that are 3/4 inch inside diameter. Okay. So it doesn't matter how big your vacuum pump is. If you're using it on 1/4-inch hoses, it's like sucking a golf ball through a garden hose. Okay. Ain't nothing going to happen there. You got to have proper flow through your hoses. All right. Let's see what else we got in here. I already answered that one. Let me get onto this. 6th. Okay. I answered that question. I answered that. I'm just looking through my list of stuff. I answered all that. Oh, great. Okay. So I need to address something that I have on my list right here. You guys, I use sarcasm when I'm working a lot. And when I'm working on equipment, I'll make sarcastic jokes. You guys have to understand that I do realize that there's some important things. So someone asked me a question and they said, do I ever think it would just be smart just to use a regular torque wrench instead of joking about it? And yes, I do realize that there is a time and place for a torque wrench. So I joke that I have a torque wrench in my elbow, and every time I tighten a flare nut, I know when it's torqued properly. To be fair, I don't work on a lot of 410A equipment. I don't do flare nuts on 410A. I do flare nuts on 404, 134, all refrigeration equipment all the time. I realize that when you're dealing with 410A, flare nuts can be problematic, especially if you're not using the proper flaring tool, okay? Torque wrenches are a must when you're dealing with 410A and most refrigerants. Most technicians don't realize that you can over-tighten a flare nut. If you over-tighten a flare nut, what actually happens is you actually stress the metal in the flare nut, and the flare nut goes on too tight, but as the metals relax, it'll actually contract and it'll back the flare nut off. So if you over tighten a flare nut, it'll actually back off and you'll come back and it'll be like somewhat loose. And you're like, what the heck? Well, it's because you over tightened it. Okay. So do I realize? Yes, I realize that a flare nut is a torque wrench is a very important tool. Okay. I probably need to calm down with my sarcasm because I realize that a lot of you guys watch these videos to learn. And if I'm out here telling you guys you don't need torque wrenches, it is important. Okay. I've learned over my career in the stuff that I do how to properly torque things down. 1 ugga dugga, 2 ugga duggas, that kind of stuff. But yes, I do realize, guys, that torque wrenches are important. Okay. I joke too when I'm doing contactors, that I'm not torquing them down. I'm never probably going to have a torque screwdriver. Okay. That's just something that's probably not going to be very practical for me. But it probably would be a good idea for me to have a torque wrench for doing flare nuts. But I will say, to this day, I don't see a torque wrench that I think is a good fit for our industry. Every one of them is stupid looking, and they just seem like they don't seem very ideal. Okay. So, I think we need to innovate a little bit with our tools. And they just don't seem like they're very practical to me, the torque wrenches that are out there at this point. So, let me see what else I'm missing in here. I already answered that one. I already answered that, bud. All right. Okay. So at this point, guys, I'm going to announce one more time the winner of the SC480 was, and he's already answered the email, was Josh T. Congrats to Josh. At this point, guys, we're going to stop the HVAC questions. And I always kind of like to take a few minutes just to talk about normal stuff, not HVAC related. We're going to kind of transition into that right now. So if you guys have any personal questions you want to ask me, go for it. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about is health. Okay. We kind of already talked about our skin earlier. When it comes to our trade, guys, it's really easy for us to be unhealthy. And actually before this, I was having a conversation with someone in the YouTube chat about our health and about diabetes and about things that we can eat. Guys, it's so easy for us to take for granted our health. Okay. There's people out there. For instance, I was talking with someone before the stream that has diabetes and they have to be very careful about what they eat. And, he had asked for a quick snack and I said, hey, have some cucumbers or have some carrots. That sounds like a really healthy snack. But he was sharing some really important information about how much sugar was in a carrot. Now, it was very interesting, the number. I want to say that he told me that if you take 20 bite-sized carrots, the little tiny ones, if you eat 20 of them, it's the equivalent of eating a Snickers bar. If that's even half correct, that's insane to think that. Because I oftentimes will just grab a giant bag of carrots and sit down and eat them. Well, no wonder I'll eat those, okay? Because it's pure sugar. Guys, we have to, especially as we get older. I'm 37 years old. I'm getting older. I'm very concerned about my health. I recently found out that my biological mom has diabetes and it runs in her family. I never knew that before. Okay. And it kind of scares me. I think about little things like my life insurance policy is up for renewal here in about 10 years. And it's like, man, I'm going to have to, in order to get life insurance, I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but they have to do blood work. They have to do a health workup, look at your your health and all that stuff, and it raises your rates. And I have life insurance on myself for my family just in case something happens. And lately I've been really thinking about that, and it kind of worries me, you know, finding out that there's some health issues in my family, and it really makes me think twice about the way that I eat and the things that I've done over my life, you know, to my body, eating and abusing it, being out in the sun, that kind of stuff. Man, we really need to think twice about ourselves, and we really need to take care of ourselves. Eating healthy is a hard thing. You know, unfortunately in our society, we make it so acceptable to eat sugar all day long, when in reality, sugar isn't the best thing for us, you know. But unfortunately, you know, we trade. We either need salt or we need sugar, one or the other. Our food either has to be covered in sugar or covered in salt. You like barbecue food with barbecue sauce, pure sugar and salt. Okay, you know, so we eat salt and sugar on everything. Am I perfect? Heck no, guys. I'm overweight. I'm considered obese when it comes to national standards and all that stuff, which seems kind of crazy. But, you know, we need to take care of ourselves. So make sure you guys are taking care of yourself too. You know, I haven't talked about it at all lately. Forgive the giant mess behind me. You guys have been killing it with the shirt orders. So I got this giant shirt order. Thank you guys very much for supporting me in the way that you have been supporting me. My wife has been killing it on these orders. So if you guys are getting shirt orders, it's because my wife is packaging them, taking them to the post office and shipping them out. Shirts on my website, hvacrvideos.com, if you guys are interested. It's just another way to support the channel. I try to keep the prices down as much as possible so that way I don't kill it. But I realize that some of you guys just want to wear shirts. I'm currently sold out of the large hats. I do have another order of 100 hats coming in, so those will be in soon. Yeah, any more questions? Let's see. See if I missed anything in here. Oh, that's funny. Stephen Knorr, you're funny, dude. How am I doing with the fire? So we have a huge fire. They call it the Apple Fire. Is about 10 miles away from my house. It's never going to come near my house. It's going in the opposite direction into the San Bernardino National Forest. But I am concerned about some of the mountain communities that I love to visit because that fire is going in those directions. There's currently no fires that are threatening my home. My home is not in a place where I would really be threatened by fires per se. I had one recently that was kind of close, but we're safe. It's just really hot and dry. We're supposed to have somewhat of a cool down this weekend and some higher humidity. But here in California, we have prime weather because in the summertime, you know, it's 105 degrees outside and it's 15% relative humidity. So, you know, I mean, you could start a fire just by looking at the grass. You know, it's crazy. So we're supposed to have a little bit higher. I imagine the humidity will probably get up to like 30% and the temperature will probably drop to 95, 98 or something like that. But hopefully that'll help the firefighters so they can get it put out. I should pay my bride double. That is right, Rich. She's worth every penny. All right. We want to know if my dad still works in the field. So no, my dad doesn't work in the field. He does still work. He'll come out and be support staff. So when we're doing installations and things like that, he'll come and try to help me while I'm working on the roof, coordinating refrigeration equipment on the roof. He'll go downstairs and kind of be the supervisor to kind of coordinate the installations downstairs. Whenever I do AC installs, he'll come and, you know, help me with the crane, that kind of stuff. But he does not turn wrenches anymore. He does not go out and work in the field now. And a lot of people have asked. I still haven't asked him because it hasn't been an opportunity to do so. But one of these days I'll get him on this live stream too. Have I always lived in California? Tim, I was actually born in Rolla, Missouri, of all things. I moved to California when I was 3 years old, and I've lived in Orange County, California for half of my life, and then the Inland Empire for the other half of my life. So just got a brand new Comfort Maker furnace and AC installed after your old Goodman service died after 26 years of faithful service. What's my opinion on ICP furnaces and ACs? I have an ICP in my house. I have a Arco Air, which is the same thing as Comfort Maker. It's just an ICP product. Any equipment is as good as the installation and as good as the maintenance. So long as it was installed properly and you maintain it, you're probably going to get a long life out of that equipment. So hopefully that answers. In summer here in South Australia, temps are 120 with 8%. Yeah, we're not quite as bad. You guys had some crazy fires last year in Australia, and I saw on like a fire map that you guys are still having some fires out there right now. That you guys... Yeah, you guys are a barren desert just like us. So what's my dream car? My dream car is that VW bus up there, or that 68 fastback. Actually, that's a GT350. I think that's a 67 GT350, I think. Adam, thank you so very much, man. I really appreciate that. Definitely check out the Overtime Show. I will be on the Overtime Show, work permitting, this Friday. Last week I called in because I was still working. So what kind of retirement plans do I suggest? Oh, Scott S., I am not a financial person. I personally have a 401k. I am the least qualified person to give any financial advice. I'm a mess when it comes retirement wise and financial wise. So t-shirt shipping outside of the US at this time, I'm only shipping to Canada and Mexico, but I'm still working on figuring out UK, Australia, and other places like that. So it's a little difficult as far as like my software and stuff like that goes. For instance, it's fine, but you know, like we had an order, and don't feel bad if you're the person that did this. It is what it is. But I had an order for 4 shirts that was going to Canada, and the way that my software is set up, it charges a flat fee of $20, which is it's insane what it costs me to ship to Canada. But it cost me $20 to ship a freaking shirt to Canada. It's sad. But he ordered 4 shirts, and my software only charged him $20, and it's like, oh, that kind of hurt. So that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out how to do the shipping and the freight and all that stuff. But I realize that I have a lot of viewers and people in the UK and all over the place. So I am working on it. So, all right, let's see what else we got. Max out Roth, IRA everywhere, and 401k. Yeah. Do I speak some Spanish, Mr. Green? You would think I speak Spanish, but I absolutely do not speak any Spanish, and I've grown up in Southern California my entire life. If I spoke Spanish, my life would be so much easier. That's one of my regrets in life, is not speaking Spanish, to be honest with you, because it would help me so much living in California for sure. Overtime, you know what? Weaver Maintenance, overtime, they owe me some money. No, I'm just kidding. Overtime, good stuff. Yeah, overtime pays time and a half. I don't know what you meant by that. I was joking about the Overtime Show. All right, guys. I am going to wrap this up. Really, really appreciate it. Do me a favor, support the stream. Watch through the commercials if you can. If you're interested, some merch. Check out the sponsors. Support the sponsors. We will catch you guys on the next one. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to flip over to the intro picture and cue up the outro music. If y'all could do one thing, if y'all could take one thing from my videos or my live streams, please stop, take a second, take a step back, and look at the big picture. And we'll go ahead and take you out with the intro music, because I like the intro music. Are you guys still here? You guys need to leave. You guys should like totally go home. You're seriously wasting your time watching some idiot on YouTube. You guys need to go home. For real. Like, go. Go. I can't do it. My eyes hurt. The fan is blowing in my face. I can't do it right now. But for real, go home. I was trying to do a staring contest, but the damn fan is blowing wind in my face. Go to your home. Don't you have a home? Come on. Go home. Go. Be gone. For those of you that don't know, too, we do have a Discord going. If I was smart, I'd have the link to Discord, but I don't. Bet you I can find it, though. Here. I know how to find the link to Discord. Here, right now. I'll put the Discord link in here. You guys are free to come in there. And it's just a place to chat, kind of like this live stream right now. Here's the Discord link right now. Feel free to come in there and check it out. I go in once or twice a day. Kind of hang out. Chill out with everybody. But yeah, you guys need to go home. Yeah. No, I'm not beautiful, Brad Newman. I'm an ugly old dude. For sure. You are... Good point, Jojo. You are home. That's right. So, yeah. Mind explosion right now, Jojo. Yeah, just bored. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just have a beer with it. You know what? Rich, for you, I'll do that. We'll have another beer. Yeah, what the heck? We'll keep this thing going. We got nothing better to do. It's only dinner with my family. Come on. All right. One beer. That's it. Then I have to go have a life with my family. HVACR videos, Discord. Yeah, that is a code. But I put it in there, the old link or whatever, too. We call this the after show. For sure. How are you guys doing with the whole COVID thing? You know, in the chat. It's so crazy. I mean, you don't got to get political or anything, but I mean, just in general, like, how are you guys doing with everything? You guys doing okay? You know, my wife is a server at a restaurant. She's laid off. So, you know, I'm thankful that we're doing okay. But, you know, most people, you know, my wife hasn't worked since March, I think, or something like that. So, yeah, it's definitely Rich R. Shut up. You didn't need the link. Oh, man, you're funny, Rich. Yeah, drink on with your apple juice for sure. Yeah. Family won't go anywhere. They just get older and move away. Yeah, one beer, you're cracking one now. Good for you, Rich. I'm going to finish this one with you guys right now. But, yeah, this whole virus thing, man, it's such a trip. It's so crazy. You know, I watch the business aspect. I watch these restaurants struggle so bad with it. And, you know, here I am charging the restaurants money. But, I mean, I have to make a living, too. But, you know, I'm very, very aware of the situation that they're dealing with. And I'm trying to be as careful as possible when it comes to invoicing and different things like that with the restaurants, for sure. So it's definitely scary. So, yeah. What else do you need? That's true, you know? That's a bummer, Kitten Canaveral. Yeah, I was born in Rolla, Missouri, Big Pond, cable guy. Yep. I was born at St. James Hospital. St. James Hospital? No. Phelps County Hospital. Yeah, Phelps County Hospital is where I was born. I don't remember any of that stuff. I just have family there. I've been there to visit a bunch of times and things like that. So, HVAC Grandpa. Yeah, it's slowing us down. This is the slowest summer, slowest year. It's the weirdest year in general that we've ever had. So, thank God for residential. Yeah, Adam, that's a good point, man. Yeah, Samuel, I haven't been drinking very much, to be honest with you. I haven't drank since the last live stream, and I've only had 3 beers. This is my 3rd one, so no, I really don't drink that much. I make it seem like I do, but what kind of oil can you use in an old compressor that used as an air compressor? I mean, if you're going to use it as an air compressor, you can put pretty much anything in it. It's not going to last for very long, but who won the contest? AG Maintenance and Repair. The person that won the contest was Josh T, and he was already emailed and he already responded to me. So, Not much going on. Yeah, COVID isn't too bad right now. Naka, you're in the UK, right? Naka. Um, let's see what else. Lost 70% of commercial retail. Yeah, yeah, commercial retail is dead right now. That's the scary thing. Luckily, I deal with restaurants, and I'm thankful. But again, it can change tomorrow. I'm thankful that I deal with like chain restaurants because they have the capital to survive this. But the mom and pop restaurants, I feel so bad because they can't survive. They don't have millions and millions of dollars. They don't have investors and different things like that. So. I mean, but even the chain restaurants, it's kind of getting sketchy. I mean, I know what's on the horizon. I know what's coming. I try to save my pennies as much as possible just to be safe, It's definitely an interesting time. There's always something, right? Whether it be 9/11 or, a war going on somewhere or whatever. There's always something crazy going on. It's nuts, but that's life. That's how life works. It's full of ups and downs, so. Do I ever take random photos with videos of stuff with thermal camera out of boredom? No, I wouldn't say that I take random stuff, but I've been definitely trying to use the thermal camera more often. I really would like to get my hands. I mean, I know I have the means to do it. I could probably reach out to True Tech Tools, but I'd like to get my hands on one of those like crazy expensive thermal cameras just to like do some fun, just to play with it. Like I want to be able to go into my backyard and see animals running around in my backyard with a thermal camera. Like that would be cool. I probably need to reach out to True Tech Tools because I know that they would probably hook me up with something temporarily just to borrow to be able to try out one of these like $10,000 thermal cameras. That would be awesome to play with it just to see like what you could do with it. I think it would be really cool to be able to take one of those super expensive thermal cameras to see if it can genuinely see liquid level in the receiver without having to heat it up. That would be a really interesting experiment. Is California closing back down again? Yeah, it's definitely having an impact. So. The restaurants aren't allowed to seat people in the restaurants. They're all setting up like awnings and crap out in the parking lot. So the cooks basically our business thrives off of the fact that the kitchen staff breaks the equipment. I mean, when you look at it, bottom line, the kitchen staff breaking the equipment and abusing it is what keeps us busy. So if the kitchen staff isn't busy, then they're not breaking the equipment. I get a few refrigeration calls here and there, but I'm not getting the level of service calls that I was getting before. We're definitely not getting like dining room AC calls. I was blown away that in one of my recent videos that I did a bar AC repair. Like bar? Why are they fixing the bar AC? But they did. It's kind of crazy. Oh, that's interesting, Backyard Redneck. Do it, man. I'm always interested. hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So if you buy another shirt, will I autograph it? Dan, you really want me to ruin a shirt with my autograph, dude? Like that just seems so weird for me because my fear is that I go to sign it and then like it messes up or something like that. I've had someone ask me for that before and it kind of freaked me out. I mean, if you genuinely want me to try, I can, sure. But you need to send me an email and let me, or put it in the notes of the order or something like that. Tell me where you want me to sign it at. That just seems so weird to me. But yeah, whatever, man. Just tell me, send me an email. What's the worst service call I've ever been on? That's, I have that. Everybody keeps asking me that, and I don't know. I don't know the worst service call I've ever been on. Like, I mean, something as silly, like I can remember being a kid, and my dad probably sent me out a little bit too early, and I couldn't braze in an expansion valve because it was a old Danfoss valve, or it might have been a Parker peanut valve. It was a Parker peanut valve. And it was stainless steel connections, and I couldn't figure out how to get the silver solder to adhere to the stainless steel, basically. And I remember it was about an hour away from our shop, and I had to call my dad out in the middle of a lunch rush to come out because I couldn't get it to braze, and all it was I wasn't applying enough heat. That's all it was. I was too afraid to overheat the valve, and I couldn't get it to adhere. I mean, something like that. That would probably be like it was like embarrassing to have to call my dad out and be like, I can't get this braze joint to take, and he had to drive an hour out there to just turn the torch on and heat it up and, get the silver solder to flow on it. That was probably, I mean, it seems silly, but that was one of the horrible things. Who is my best friend from the Overtime show? Oh, that's an interesting one. Who is my best friend from the Overtime show? Who is my bestest, most favorite friend from the Overtime show? Zach Ciota. Yeah, Zach Ciota would be my favorite friend from the Overtime show. You didn't say when the Overtime show, because Hvacr used to be on the Overtime Show, so he's my favorite friend. So yeah. All right. I know, Dan. Let's see who else. What else we got? You've had a bad run into some Danfoss wax actuators. Yeah. How do I feel about Molex connections and line voltage and current? I mean, Molex connectors, you know, the big thing is loose connections. That's the biggest issue. That's not good. So, yep. Hvacr is my bestest friend from the Overtime Show. You didn't say what portion of the Overtime Show. Hvacr used to be on the Overtime Show. So, sorry, Joe. Sorry, Adam. Sorry, Bill. Zach's my favorite. All right. All right, for real, though, I need to go eat dinner, and you guys need to get a life. So I'm going to queue up some more 80s music for you guys again. You guys can feel free to enjoy that again if I can figure out how to do it.